Welcome to the Untrapped podcast, where we give motivational and inspirational tips about life, small business, wisdom,
health, wealth, finance, relationships.
It's about being the best you that you can possibly be. Hashtag Untrapped. Welcome to the Untrapped podcast. I am your host, Keith Kalfas.
I want to talk about 3 things you must be aware of when taking on landscaping jobs, because if you're not, you'll straight up get crushed. What's up? This is Keith Kalfas with the Landscaping Employee Trap, keithkalfas.com. And in this video, I want to talk about how to plan landscaping jobs and the biggest mistakes to avoid. So I've learned this stuff from a lot of trial and error, a lot of headache and frustration. So the first one is rails, having rails set up on your business. What does that mean? Well, it's not just your business. You can put it in all different areas, but specifically, if these are rails, knowing exactly who your customer is inside of this area and who your customer is not. On the outside of the rails is not your customer. What areas or zip codes do you want to do work in? What areas do you not want to do work in? What type of landscaping jobs do you want to take on? What type of landscaping jobs do you not want to take on? See, that which is the same is not similar, and that which is similar is not the same. Okay, so that's very important for you to be very clear and specific and have a picture in your mind and a vision based off what you've done before, based off what you like doing, what's profitable, and knowing very clear about what you don't like doing and leaning towards what you like doing. But when you have a clear picture of that and you put rails up on the business, you create these constraints and you stay within those rails. Trust me, okay? Now that you know that stuff, you can cater your marketing that way. And now you know how to do number 2, which is the second important thing when qualifying landscape jobs, is qualifying. So the first mistake is not having rails on your business, right? The second mistake is not qualifying your customers over the phone if you can help it. So in the first stages of our landscaping business, we want to just jump and drive across town and go meet a customer because it feels like we're doing something that makes us successful. And really don't confuse activity with productivity. Well, if you can qualify a customer over the phone and ask them a bunch of questions, then you can save yourself a trip. I just simply went to the nursery 2 weeks ago on a Saturday, and I assumed they would have the plant that I need there. I drove all the way to the nursery, and I got there, and they literally were out of stock of the plant that I needed. And as I was driving back, I was like, why didn't I just call? So the next time I called and I made sure they have it. Think about that all the time. What can I solve with the telephone instead of just knee-jerk reaction going? So with a customer, you'd be like, hey, Bob, can you describe the project over the phone? Yeah? Can you kind of give me a vision? What needs to be done? What type of work? Okay. How big is it? About how much? That actually sounds like too small of a job for us. Are you sure you don't want anything else done? Because we offered these services. We can do a package deal. And, because we have a $300 minimum of 5, we have a $100 minimum. It doesn't matter, right? I have a $50 minimum to show up. Whatever it is. My minimum is $300 in my business. It's just what works for me, right? So when you can compare everything against those numbers because you have rails on your business and you ask your customer qualifying questions, oh, they just wanted one bush trimmed, or they wanted you to cut their lawn one time, and it's like 3 feet high, and there's bricks in the yard, and it's 2 cities away. It's totally outside of the rails of what you specified. So, it doesn't sound like it's a good fit for us, Bob. Well, best of luck. Thank you. On to the next phone call. There's another fish on the line. Hey, Joe. Oh, sounds like a fit. Tell you what, you could solve a lot over the phone. Okay. Right. Okay. Now the third thing is not knowing your numbers. Not knowing your numbers. So once you put rails up on your business, you qualify the customer on the phone. They want you to do the job, but they need a price first. They need they need your quote. Well, before you just go, oh, that'll be about $500. Zip your lips and say, hey, I'm going to go sit in my truck for a few minutes and do some math. I'll come knock on the door in 15 minutes, or I'll send you a quote, right? It's better if you can give them a number on the spot and try to lock it down and get a deposit check right then and there, or agree to start service or something, right? Move quickly and serve your customers. Not knowing your numbers. Remember I talked about putting rails up? What's your day rate? What's your minimum? How much do you have to do per day so your business works? What's your break-even point every day to run your business and everything except for your gross profit margin, your profit, right? What is your break-even point? Let's just say for you it's $300 a day. Okay? Let's say you want to make let's say you want to put $150 in your pocket every day. Right? Well, $150 pre-tax, right? I don't know. So that means you have to do a bare minimum of $450 a day, right? If the job's going to take you a day, it's got to be $450 less materials, minus, if you needed materials or dumping fees or whatever else type of variable cost comes into play. Okay, so now if it was only going to take you a half a day, maybe it's $225, right? That you have to make before what's your half a day point? Lunchtime, 1 o'clock. So when you go to give a customer a quote and it's only about $200 worth of work, this could be $22,000. It could be $2,500. I don't know what it is for your business. My numbers are totally different than this, right? So it's about $200 worth of work, right? And it's going to take you half a day. That's lower than your day rate at half a day, right? You're going to have to be like, well, it's going to be $225. You have to add an extra $25 to make your numbers, right? Now, that's just you hitting what you got to make, right? So you should have a goal. What if your goal is, you got to make $150 a day, but you really want to make $250 a day, right? For me, my goal is I want to make $700 a day every single day. If I make less than $400, I'm not too happy, right? Because I've been doing this a long time. So, what you got to be more picky with the jobs and, to get to that point. And some guys can't even start the truck unless they're doing $2,500 a day. It's all relative, right? So, for you, $450 a day, okay? Now the next thing is I'm gonna speed this up. But say you got to know your man-hour rate. You got to know what all the costs are inside of the job. And if you just jump out and agree to do a job without knowing your numbers, right? That's why I said go sit in the truck. Say, okay, how much is materials? What's my gas, labor, insurance, taxes? What are all these numbers, okay? Here's something I learned from the Contractor Sales Academy. They talk about the 50% gross profit margin. Tom Reber from the Contractor Sales Academy, I figured this part out on my own, but he did mention it. He was talking about setup and breakdown time. I was like, I wish I would have learned that a long time ago. Okay, so knowing your numbers, what about we'll call it your on-ramp and your off-ramp. Your on-ramp to doing the job, and then your off-ramp. So setup time, driving to the job site, picking up equipment, picking up materials, getting the job going, and then now you're actually doing the job. And then you have an entire breakdown time, which is like, cleaning everything up, breaking everything down, driving back, putting everything away. That's still all part of the job, even though you're not on the actual job site. You're working those hours and you're burning up non-billable hours. This shirt is so tight, it's driving me nuts, bro. Gosh. I watch everything I say with this YouTube crap now. Because somebody like, I'm not paying for your drive time. I can't believe this guy. He's charging customers for drive time. Well, one funny thing is, you in your head, you can think because you've raised your prices that your prices are so high now, and then go compare your prices to a bigger company and your prices are still way too low, right? And it goes on and on and on and on like that. So are you making sure that you're charging for going and picking up materials and setting up the job site, not only doing the job, but breaking down the job site and cleaning everything up to completion? Because that's all part of the job, right? You should be charging for that. So therefore, you're not rushing and feeling like you have to cut corners. So in order to provide great service for your customers, so you can really bend over backwards and put your heart into what you're doing and be very intentional about it, then you should charge the customer for setting up and breaking down so you can do a complete job. So no stone is left unturned, and you could do a beautiful finishing touch. And because you charge for that time, now you feel good about it when you're doing the final thing to make it just perfect, right? To make everything beautiful. So knowing those numbers from experience, say a 10-hour job might take an extra 3 hours. An hour, 1.5 hours on the front end. And it might take 1.5 hours on the back end. A 10-hour job might take an hour and a half to set up and get going. And then an hour and a half on the back end to clean everything up, right? So instead of it taking, one long 10-hour day, it's probably going to take you a day and a half to do a one-day job. So knowing those numbers based off experience and then reflecting that on your day rate, what you got to make. So if you got to do $1,000 in revenue a day, and then you take on a job that you think is only going to take you one day. Well, I got to do $1,000 a day. So to make it all work, maybe 30% of that $1,000 is profit, right? What is that? $333 in gross profit. So you make 30%. All the rest is overhead, right? So you think it's going to take you a day, but you didn't calculate setup and breakdown time, right? So it takes you a day and a half, and now your 30% profit margin gets cut all the way down to like 15%. And because you didn't allocate that time, right? Because maybe you really wanted to get the job. I don't know. You didn't put the rails up on your business. Maybe you didn't qualify the customer, and now you don't know your numbers. So what happens is that cuts into time that you could have already been started on and doing another job, or that you plan to do. So now you have this opportunities cost eating you alive because you have all these non-billable hours that you're working, that you're not only not making money, you're losing money very quickly because you could have been on another job making money. Does it make sense? So being very careful, just taking a breath, saying how long is this really actually going to take to do all this and do a good job? Knowing your numbers means not only just knowing the money numbers, but knowing your time numbers, knowing the math of how long things actually take, and how long things actually take based on how strategic and how efficient you are when you're on the job working, how well thought out your plan is, and really just cold hard experience of how long you've done the actual thing. So you as a contractor giving a customer a flat rate of $1,000 to do something. If it takes you 2.5 days when it should take you only a day and a half, well, that's on you. You got to eat it. You're not charging them by the hour. I didn't know how long stuff took when I first got started. So I did like a $20,000 landscape job for a customer. I didn't know how long it was. I thought it would take like 2 weeks. I thought I was going to make a lot of money. It took a month. After 2 weeks, I was knocking on the customer's door, terrified, begging this customer, please just switch me over to hourly. Please, can I just work hourly? I was so scared. And he agreed to do it. The customer agreed to do it. So I just started billing him hourly. And he was getting a great deal, by the way, and he knew that. And that's okay. I did a $20,000 landscape job, and you know how much I made off of it? It took me an entire month. I made $1,400, and it took me a month. And I had an eviction notice. I think I had an eviction notice on my door, and I was there. Oh God, it was insane. So, put rails up on your business. To recap, make sure you qualify your customers, and make sure you know your numbers. Slow down a little bit. Put the big rocks in first, and you're only going to learn how to do this through cold hard experience, which means you're going to have to go out and fail and mess up. And when something happens and you're working for free and you're in anxiety, just breathe and tell yourself it's all part of the process and learn your lessons. And then slowly but surely, you'll keep moving upstream.